Welcome back. You're still watching This Week on Arise News, and I'm Somna Sambo. We still continue with our discussions on the issues that we have ahead of the elections, and of course the economic and monetary policies that Nigeria has been battling with in the last 7 days. Now, Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has continued to dare President Muhammadu Buhari on the Naira redesign policy, saying the old notes remain legal tender in the state. Similarly, the Kano State Governor Abdullah Umar Ganduje has alleged that the Naira redesign policy of President Muhammadu Buhari is aimed at truncating Nigeria's democracy. As this policy continues to generate controversy, the president prides himself in saying that the redesigned Naira policy will curb vote buying and increase electoral transparency. The presidency has also denied the allegations that the 2023 polls will not hold and that there are plans for an interim government. While joining us to discuss these monetary and political issues is Baba Yusuf, who is a policy strategist, policy analyst, and of course he has some views when it comes to politics, and is also the former MD CEO of Nigeria Aviation Handling Company Free Trade Zone. Thank you so much for joining us to take a look at some of these issues.
Thank
now,
you so much.
Let's start from the political angle. When you see Malam Nasir El-Rufai, governor of Kaduna State, and of course people like Yahya Bello of Kogi State, and of course Abdullah Ganduje of Kano, coming out to, hit back at the president and saying that, look, his policy measures in the past 7 days have been more political, targeted at truncating the successes of the APC in the forthcoming poll. What comes to your mind before going into the nitty-gritty about, how it has to do with the Naira?
Well, I will allude to the dynamics and mechanics of politics. Interestingly, Nigeria is becoming a model of a very peculiar kind of politics. You have the governors you have mentioned belong to the ruling party, the incumbent, and now taking a totally opposite position, from the Mr. President. We can say daggers drawn out, spells a different kind of politics. Interestingly, at a very critical moment, days to a critical election in the history of Nigeria, having spent 8 years and trying to demonstrate to the Nigerian citizens and electorates that this is the party to vote for again, yet again, to take Nigeria, to the promised land. And that spells, a lot about what is going on in the party. And for some of us who will say the party is imploding. And if they don't take
the APC can survive it? I mean, we hear that there's a meeting that's been summoned by the APC national chairman for Sunday, trying to see how they can present a united house. But with this effrontery, do you think that President Buhari will also take lightly to some of the subtle threats by some of these governors? And of course, we had our last guest say that they don't even have the power to implement currency or security measures in their states. So why would they want to dare the president? Is it because the president is the leader of their party?
In my opinion, this is a culmination of what I call a covert crisis, that has bedeviled the party, especially build up to the primary elections. And rightly so, because it is the party to beat. The ability to manage the momentum of success determines the next stage of growth of a party, and indeed determines, if at all, they will make the impact and take, the presidency again at the next election. Interestingly, also at a time where Nigerians are really, buckling under the pressure of the socio-economic impacts of whether or not the party has delivered, we see the internal wranglings of the party. To my mind, I don't see any clarity in terms of how APC is going to put the house in order in the next couple of days. The governors have taken very clear positions, and the president, of course, and his team have also taken opposing position. Interestingly, in the last couple of days, we don't see APC versus PDP or Labour Party. We see, it's a kind of civil war within the party, which is sad for the party.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the presidential candidate, right? With some of his lieutenants like El-Rufai, to be angry? How can an APC president be providing some of this, putting in place some of these policy measures that is seemingly hurting the economy and, making a lot of people go without cash for days, just close to the election? I mean, if you beat a child, shouldn't a child cry?
Oh, absolutely. And not just the child, the children. as the case may be, like you rightly said, most of the governors, or all the governors that have gone to court, that have taken this, for want of a better word, combatant position against Mr. President's position, are what you will call long-time president's allies. And for them to take this very hard decision, as political as it will be, tells you how deeply rooted the issues in APC are. Like I said, this is a culmination of a deeply rooted, inherent issues within the party that have not been properly managed by an incumbent that will sadly be a case study in political science. Yes, that the incumbent has created a pathway to failure, if you like, if they don't take the right steps in the next couple of years.
For his own party. Okay, now let's talk about the critical one now. President Buhari says that the measures he has taken has helped to reduce vote buying before election day. How true is that from your own thinking and analysis, as someone who has an understanding of how the financial sector works, and then of course relating it to the days ahead as we get close to election day?
Okay, great. We look at it from 2 standpoints, economic and strategy. Okay, and then when you talk about impact, we are talking in future tense, that it will stop vote buying. So we are not there yet to know whether it will stop vote buying or
yeah,
not.
But from now, he says his magnifying glass has shown him that he's on the way to curbing vote buying.
In my opinion, it is neither here nor there, Sumna, because to be honest, the people, the political actors that the president is trying to tame, so to speak, have been allowed to, or have been empowered, or have been allowed to grow their political war chest for 8 years. And you come 3 months to election and say you want to stop them from buying vote, or you want to stop the electorate from actually, selling their votes. And you create a situation where it is going to be practically impossible to stop. And I'll give you numbers, okay? Just before the implementation of this redesign, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics with other organizations confirmed that over 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. Okay? And we know that according to IMF report of 2017, 80%, about 80% of the Nigerian populace operate in the informal sector, contributing about 65% to the GDP. Okay? Again, a recent report by the World Bank says it is only 45% of the Nigerian adults that have bank account, right? And that out of that, 35% are the ones that report that they have done digital transaction. And if that is the case, first of all, you want to stop vote buying in an economy that is already at its knees. There is hunger in the land, there is strife, right? So according to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need, the critical need for any citizen at that strata of society was to survive. So rather than actually stop vote buying from the perspective of the people that will sell their vote, you have created critical need for them to look how to survive. And these political actors, you have created a window for them to do that. Now coming to the part of the political actors that we are hearing have been stopped from having the new currencies. To be honest, you and I know that that is just not far-fetched, because the political gladiators either have banks or are critical stakeholders of banks. So whatever amount they want, they get. And in any case, the critical political players and their stakeholders stash their cash in dollars. The Nairas we have been seeing in trailer loads of Nairas we have been seeing manifesting all here and there are numbers that I think they can always look away from, if any. So the people that have been impacted are this 80% of the populace, amounting to over 160-something million people. That first of all, APC want their vote, about out of it 90-something million people have registered, they want to vote, they want better life, and you have come to now bring this draconian policy at the tail end of the administration. Whereas you could have done that earlier on to do it in such a way and manner that you mop up the liquidity, you get the full value of the cashless policy, which is a fantastic policy, by the way. However, the timing is wrong, and I don't see how that will stop vote buying, because the hunger, the strife is increasing.
Yeah, but and another have enough liquidity in that permits, you know, giving out of this cash on election day. But we hear that vouchers have been prepared by some of these politicians.
Thank you very much. Now, that is why I'm heading to
actually
that's why I'm heading to now. Creativity and innovation is taking place by the political actors to create other avenues to entice, right, the voters, including
trade by barter.
Absolutely, if you like. So you see, when you pressure people, they say necessity is the mother of invention. To be honest, it's a good policy, but I also think, in my opinion, the policy from all the players, from both sides of the divide, the initiators of the policy and the people that are attacking the policy at the political level, actually are doing that for political reasons, not for the citizens of Nigeria. Because if the cashless policy is for the citizens of Nigeria, the economy would have been better, right? 2023, the projection is Nigerian economy growth rate will be about 3.1%, according to IMF. And interestingly, by 2024, it is projected to slow down to 2.9%. It presupposes that even if the APC wins election, the incoming president and other leaders are going to go into what you call political, economic, and social headwinds, ab initio. And now how do you expect, what kind of magic with a debt portfolio of over 42 trillion naira, right? And a debt to GDP ratio about 23%. The numbers are not looking good. So rather than make things better in terms of the electoral process and its transparency to deliver an election that is devoid of vote buying, you are creating a situation that is going to make it worse and that actually make the politicians more creative in trying to sell the vote or buy the vote, as the case may be.
As we head towards election day, there are talks here and there by some of these governors that, look, they just seem to want to conclude that President Buhari is all out against the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And from what we've seen in recent days, it looks like Bola Tinubu himself is very angry that his party's president seems not to be working in tune with him, despite the initial assurances. And of course, when there was that media uproar, whether he was supporting him or not, Buhari, went round with him here and there. But just yesterday, we saw the Minister of Information also bringing a new dimension, Lai Mohammed, saying that, look, Bola Tinubu himself has been going around campaigning without using the federal government's achievement under President Buhari to market his candidacy. Instead, he's talking about what he did in Lagos, that Tinubu cannot divorce himself from the policies and programs of President Muhammadu Buhari. Doesn't it look very clear that it looks like Buhari himself is angry with Bola Tinubu too, that Bola Tinubu is not selling his programs and achievements, quote, properly?
You see, like I said, this is a culmination of a burning issue, inherent ab initio. If you go back a little bit to the Abeokuta, situation where Ashwaji Bola
outburst, if you may call it that.
Yeah, okay, outburst. And he came to make some very sweeping remarks that were very clear and scathing, and to me that was a declaration of war.
And you think it's payback time by President
Not
Buhari?
really payback time, but it tells a lot about what is going on within the party structure hierarchy, top to bottom. Now, they have been managing it over time. I mentioned somewhere around October that the strength of the APC may be its weakness. It turns out this may be the case. Now, with regards to the position taken by Mr. President, I am not Mr. President, but indeed his actions can be used to deduce his intentions. And it seems to us that APC is not together and the party is suffering what I call a late hour malady. If not managed, I don't think they will be able to succeed as they want to in election. But of course, it's politics.
And could the president by chance be actually right through this policy that he's put in place when we see some of these governors being aggressive about it? Could he be right to actually say that, some of these people actually have stash of cash in somewhere preparing it for election day? And if that is the situation, how do we go from here? Nigerians are paying the price and all of that, though there's a new directive for 200 Naira notes to be made available. Can we do something in between Monday and Friday before election day, and you think it will help to assuage the feelings of Nigerians so that we don't have a lot of people, you know, taking the anger of lack of cash into the election and, you know, burning places like we've seen, you know, banks being burnt and all of that?
First of all, the unfortunate situation is that political nemesis is catching up with the political players. I don't see any rationale behind the policy coming at this time, with due respect. And I don't see any strategy with the counter maneuvers to that effect. Like I said, the money has been allowed to be stashed over time. One of the critical reasons why I voted for General Muhammadu Buhari was we thought that corruption will be fought to its knees. To the
well, isn't he fighting corruption at least?
Well,
towards the tail end of his administration.
When the objective may not be achieved. The money is right. You know, when you see these governors and these actors being very aggressive, of course he has touched a sore point. But the point is this: are we going at this point to throw the baby with the bathwater because of maybe some political expediency? We overlook the citizens that we are working for. We overlook the impact on the citizen, pregnant women dying in the hospital because they cannot be attended to due to this cash issue, people dying, people suffering. Why do they have to suffer when things would have been done better? So it appears to me it is highly political, and at the end of the day, it may even impact on the electoral process. And ask me how. Now, if you look at the numbers of the vote of the total number of voters in 2019, I think, if I'm not
about
mistaken,
84 million.
No.
Registered voters.
No, the actual voting.
The actual voters,
I think it's
yes,
about 30-something%. I don't have the actual numbers,
the
but
total number,
it's certainly less than 40% of the registered voters. Yes. With the situation now, mobility has been impacted, welfare of people have been impacted. In addition to the security situation of the country, this may even lead to more voter apathy, if you like, of people that will actually come out to vote, even if they want to vote. You know, because movement from point A to B is a problem. In the core north, but
INEC has, you know, created more polling units,
yeah,
which may reduce the
like I said earlier,
voters.
The priority of the citizens and majority of the electorate on election day, if things are not done drastically between now and then to address this issue, is how to feed, how to survive. It gets to a point where
not how to vote.
Yes, towns
but
and
you
villages.
Vote once in 4 years, especially
yes,
for this.
But you can only go to vote if you are healthy, and if you've been able to feed, or your children have been able to feed. You have border towns that are already using this SEFA. They have already abandoned Naira. People are doing trade by barter. So the priority will now be survival rather than election, which will now impact adversely on no matter how prepared INEC is, it is only when people come out to vote that you will see that you'll be able to have the impact. And if care is not taken, we don't have the turnout, that is the number of turnout that is enough to validate the election, you may have an election that will crash.
And it looks like Bola Tinubu and some of his lieutenants in the APC are afraid that this last-minute policies being brought in place by President Muhammadu Buhari may be used by the opposition to actually make them, you know, trounce the APC on election day. What more do you think the leaders of the governing party can do when the national leader of the party is the one suffering from all of this?
Yes, and to be honest, it can be worse for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm being specific because he's the presidential flag bearer. It can be worse. These policies have come, and the position, even as at 1 hour, 2 hours ago, is clearly that it's not going to. I mean, you mentioned earlier to say it was relaxed to take 200. Come on, what percentage of 200 is the total value? It's out of the total value of money.
Well, the number of people who actually need this currency, as in cash, to do basic runs are not much. I mean, if you look at the people who are on the queues, they are not looking for 5 million or 10 million. They're just looking for 10,000, 20,000 or 50,000. So if you're giving 200 Naira notes, shouldn't that be enough for them?
Yeah, but where is the 200 Naira notes?
Well,
don't forget, somewhere the CBN also said they have burnt a lot of the money. So I don't know whether coincidentally or luckily the 200 were not burnt. But the point is this, Somna. The logistics, the project management framework of this project, now looking at it from another dimension, and the entire logistics of it is dead on arrival. And that is the problem. The timing and how it is sequenced has been, you know, ab initio badly planned. And coming to the presidential flag bearer, he has every reason to be angry or to be concerned, let me use that word, and his team. Albeit the issue is he remains the presidential flag bearer of the All Progressive Congress. There's nothing he can do about it.
Well, we just hope the APC is not becoming a threat to our democracy, because we have also heard them saying that there are plans for an interim government. Some of these policies are being put in. If governors can be talking about that, addressing their people through state broadcasts, doesn't it call for concerns from other citizens to sit down and actually analyze these issues properly? Because, I mean, the problems of the governing party should never be transplanted into the overall politics. What should other Nigerians be doing to ensure that our democracy is secure, so that we don't have, some people being, some people taking advantage of this, despite the presidency warning that there's nothing like that and that elections will hold? How do we ensure that we safeguard our democracy, especially in the last few days before the election?
To be honest, there is no time in history that the height or the tempo of the political consciousness of Nigeria is very high at the moment. And anybody that is getting it twisted, that this election will be truncated or derailed for whatever parochial reason, is going to be in for a shocker. People are talking, people are resisting, and I think the body language of the president and also what we have said with regards to the APC itself shows that, or presupposes that, the president is not going to shift base. And I give you one good reason. About 10 days or a week ago, the president has gone ahead to set up the transition committee. Now that demonstrates the body language of the president that he's good to go, he's ready to proceed. I think these rhetorics are to rattle us and to throw crisis into the polity, which I think people are wiser. People are seeing through this, and they know that the political actors are in their game again. We will remain resolute. I call on Nigerians to remain focused, to remain resolute. Let's go out and vote and demonstrate that we can decide for ourselves the people that will lead us.
And we've seen the opposition governors, especially of the PDP and APGA, backing President Buhari on this policy. I mean, the governors of Bayelsa, and then you have those states saying that, look, on this Supreme Court case, we actually want to be with the federal government. Is it because they don't have elections coming ahead for them during this period? Or what sort of politics do you think is going on that the APC governors, some of the APC governors are against their own president, while the PDP governors, the governors of the opposition, are backing the APC president? What do you make of this?
Dynamics of politics. They are seizing the moment. The opposition party are seizing the moment and wearing the cloak of the saviors, to say this is what will work, because they are also, like, to give it a very serious perspective, the concerns that the members of the ruling party have more money, have more war chest, that has touched somewhere. We had somebody saying that a governor has about 20-something billion kept somewhere. Yeah, I mean, so for them, it is like clipping the wings of the APC presidential flag bearer. So I think, and that seems
to be resonating with a lot of people. I mean, when you talk to them, they tell them, look, if it's only to just stop these governors from bringing our money, or top politicians in the APC from bringing our money, that is enough for us. We'll be able to, follow Mr. President gradually. But as we go into these last few days before election, how do we ensure that INEC itself plays a critical role, so that on election day, we don't hear INEC saying that the election is postponed? What do we do to ensure the election holds, and of course, there's a level playing ground for all political parties?
Let us not forget that the cash crunch and the cashless policy is also impacting the organs of government. We heard the National Security Advisor making a statement about that impact. INEC also has been, although I know that the CBN governor has been, giving words of consolation to INEC that all the things they need, will be delivered in terms of the monetary provision to deliver. But also we should know that apart from the cash to deliver, they need money at every other point to deliver. Don't forget the virus, which is a critical success factor, and the bandwidth of the internet and the technology to drive the election is very key. I hope INEC will continue fine-tuning the technology to ensure that there will be no issues.
All right. Thank you so much. Baba Yusuf is the policy strategist and former chief executive officer of the Nigeria Aviation Handling Company, Free Zone. He is also a political analyst who helps us to understand some of these issues every now and then. We must thank you immensely for joining us to help us understand some of these issues. And like you said, we're all looking up to INEC. All eyes are on INEC, and it looks like the INEC national chairman may assume like the position of president in the next 7 days to the election, because all eyes will be on him.
Absolutely.
His movement, activities,
Absolutely.
and of course the national commissioners and other electoral officers, I mean. Well, it's 1 week to the February 25th election. Make up your mind to vote. And when you vote, please vote wisely. Think of Nigeria as a nation that must continue to exist after the election. Well, that has been on this edition of This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo. See you next week.